All right, I'll keep this real quick because I know you have other callers. All I want to say is, look, a lot of people thought I was crazy when I criticized Riley, and even more crazy when I criticized Cohen. But this is an example of what I think is just more of the same under USC over the last, say, 12 years. I think of Max Nikias, Clay Helton, and Pat Hayden, and now I'm kind of thinking of Carol Folt, Jen Cohen, and Lincoln Riley. And I mean, I do give Riley credit for his defensive hires, and make no mistake about that. But I don't feel that Jen Cohen is. I think she's in over her head. I think this is one of what you will see are more examples of that. I mean, this is USC. This isn't the University of I don't know, Minnesota, and it's very disappointing to see what I see as a pattern that is, again, more of the same that really equates to mediocrity. And people say, "Oh, don't jump the gun." Well, we've waited how many years for USC to improve? Outside of the victory against Penn State in the Rose Bowl, we've been precisely that, with poor choices at coach, AD, and president. And I feel like we're right back there and haven't learned the lessons of the past. So, Matt, I was going to ask you, are you going to be writing an article about this saying basically enough is enough? Riley, Cohen, and Folt have to get it together, or USC is not going to reach the promised land. What are your thoughts?
Well, I think what I'm going to write in the next 24 hours at Trojans Wire is that this is a moment of truth for Jen Cohen. That this is it's an intersection, and which way is this ship heading? And it's up to Jen Cohen to steer USC in the right direction. Because Adam, I mean, I'm going to agree with you. This is not acceptable. USC is not a poverty school. You have Big Ten revenue that's going to be coming in the door. It's not as though tuition at USC is cheap. What's going on here? Why is USC getting outgunned so regularly in these bidding wars? And look, I know it's distasteful. I know that the current NIL transfer portal recruiting landscape is something that fans hate. Like they love college football at least a little bit less. It's not what they remember and cherish and love about the sport. But as Gary from Dana Point did say, this is the way the game's played. This is the reality we have in front of us, and it's up to Jen Cohen to be agile, like she's hired to make big boy, or in her case, big girl decisions, and she needs to tighten this ship up. So it's a moment of truth for Jen Cohen. I do want to address one other thing about Lincoln Riley. And I'm seeing a lot in the chat about Riley needs to be fired and other aspects of the coaching staff.
I don't think those are Trojans, by the way.
Well, okay, but you know what? I'm sure there are some USC fans who are saying, this is not what I signed up for, and Lincoln Riley's presiding over a sinking ship. This is not acceptable. So I mean, majority of fans no, and the educated fans no, but there's certainly a sizable chunk of people right now who are saying Lincoln Riley is not delivering at USC. Like, this reflects poorly on Lincoln Riley. And I want to make the point, this is not a Lincoln Riley problem. Now, you could say that maybe in terms of messaging and how he's selling the program, he could be speaking a little bit differently, but that's being very nitpicky. The coaching staff landed Justice Terry and Isaiah Gibson. The coaching staff did good work. And I think it seems pretty obvious, though we don't know exactly how it all went down. It seems pretty obvious that it's the NIL end of things that's hurting USC. The coaches do not get paid to run the NIL program. Now, they need to be in contact with the AD, making sure, hey, do we have enough support? Is this all being aligned properly, in terms of how they communicate and how they sell the program on the trail? Like, there's obviously a communication aspect to it, but it's ultimately Lincoln Riley and Eric Henderson are not paid to structure any sort of NIL player compensation program. That is under the AD's banner. The AD needs to make sure that the collectives and the other elements of the architecture are coming together and are doing their job, and that commitments are being kept once they're made. That is an administrative aspect, not a coaching aspect. So please, can we not? You can blame Lincoln Riley for not firing Alex Grinch and setting the program back and wasting the 2023 season, by all means, because that's absolutely true. But today, what's happened in the past 24 hours, it's not a Lincoln Riley problem. It's not an Eric Henderson problem. Let's be very, very, very clear about that one point.
And we don't, yeah. And remember also that we don't know if the breakdown is in the leadership, or let's just face it, you guys, maybe the donors, the big donors, aren't that interested in football. I was talking to Gabe from Trojan Blade about a little city called Columbus. And he's explaining, he lives in Ohio. And basically that whole city, which is a fairly large city, they live for the sole purpose of Buckeye football. Like the whole city lives for Buckeyes football. And it's not as big as Los Angeles, but we should look at the population. Some of the chat, if you want to take a little research for me, it's talk about your vertical alignment. You know, that's the kind of commitment. Everyone wants to point the finger, you know, on week after week after week after week on this show. I've talked about, hey guys, you can give as little as $50. I saw Jeff says, you know, he's giving his donations, but how many of you guys out there in chat that are actually Trojan fans that aren't just trolls? How much have you guys given $50 to the collective? 100, 1,000, 5,000. How many of you guys actually, you know, that are complaining about NIL have tried to be a part of the solution? Because I know that I've been solicited all kinds of ways. I'm an alum, so I get all kinds of stuff unsolicited. But you know, I'm my dad's season ticket holder, etc. Blah blah. So there is, you know, we're hearing from it. How many of you guys out there are actually giving? Because I guarantee you, there are people in Columbus that don't have the kind of money you have that are donating to the football program. So just some more to think about when we start pointing fingers.
Yeah, I tend to agree with both of you guys. I don't blame Riley for this. I put this on Jen Cohen, and I want to be optimistic about the future, but I think there has to be some systemic changes, and I really hope they happen. So thanks for taking my call, guys. Always great to talk to you.
Adam, always great. We almost never agree, but I always appreciate and respect your point of view. And thanks for calling in.
Likewise. Thanks, Tim.